one thing I've always wanted to do is like share my life story. And I've done that with friends, with family, mainly friends I feel really comfortable with. And I think like I really want to do it in front of a camera because I think like I want to not only track like my life right now, but in the future as well. Because like I think every moment that I look back at my life, even though my story stays the same, my own perspective on it is constantly changing. So I want to record that, and I want to just yap too. Yeah. Yeah. So where do I start? Uh, okay. So I was born and raised. I was born in New York City, um, but I was raised in New Jersey. I have a older sister, and I also have two parents, and also a dog, a big white fluffy dog named Shih Tzu named Cheerio. He's pretty old now. He's like pretty young, but um, yeah, that's our family. So yeah, I was born in New York City, and then 3 days after I was born, we moved straight to New Jersey. So I say like I'm from like New York and New Jersey. It might depend on which perspective you're in, but both New York, New Jersey, I think like fit me as I would say. And I think like growing up, I think I had a really like happy childhood. I don't remember too much on it. And I think that's a good thing. I just remember like daily dallying, having a lot of fun, just meeting a lot of people. Not meeting people, just like just enjoying and having like a very like wonderful look. Um, right now, recently, I've been on like TikTok where like I see people talk about like, or I see like perspectives of like child, like the of like being a child and the POV of like children running around on playgrounds. I think like I also like remember those days of being like so happy, so carefree. Um, yeah, and I just like miss how carefree I felt. Um, I think like I was just like so it was such a lighthearted feeling that I like don't remember but kind of remember, but I just remember like having no need to like wear any burdens and just like I was just like living life and it was so like full of curiosity. Not that I'm not curious now, but I'm like curious now with like questioning. But back then I was like curious like wonder and just like constantly wondering. Um, yeah, as a child it's pretty good. And then one thing I do want to say is that like as a whole, like I think both my sister and I like were like low key like menaces. We had a hard. I don't know how they dealt with us because I think like we'd always be like arguing. We'd always be like yelling, and whenever something like didn't go our way, we'd be screaming on the top of our lungs. Like I remember like my sister growing up, she would be screaming. If something happened. I'm not too sure what happened, but I just remember like growing up hearing my sister like beef with my parents, and then me too. Like for my sister, I think it was like ice skating. Whenever she went ice skating, whenever she had issues with it, with like grades, with like ice skating stuff with other stuff like she'd be screaming and then me too like but me it wasn't like ice skating and grades as much but it was partially grades but for me it was mainly um, gaming. Yeah, I loved gaming. I think I started playing games like I remember like playing those like multiplayer games where it's like someone holds like the cursor on one side and I do the WASD keys and then we'd like play like the battle stuff. um, it's like crazy games on. I don't know what it was called, but I just remember playing a lot of games growing up. It was so fun. Um, but yeah, as a whole, I think like um, we definitely give our parents a hard time. I think both of us were pretty loud menaces growing up. I think louder than normal. And I was also a picky eater and like didn't love that too much. But um, yeah, I think we would be like just I don't know. I think I used to like a lot of times just resort to screaming. I don't know. I feel like that fixed a lot of things, but I don't know. Yeah, in middle school, I think that's when things like got more not like serious per se, but I think that's when like my memory of it becomes more and more crisp because I think that's when I started feeling like emotions that I still like feel today, and I think like whether it's like anxiety or whether it's stress or whether it's anger or whether it's frustration, whether it's like um, crash outs. I think I crashed out before the term crash out was a term. Um, yeah, I as a whole like growing up in middle school, um, I think I had a lot of pressure on grades. Also, like my older sister is 3 years older and three grade levels older. I think like um, I was always dealing with the ripple effects of her experience having a hard time getting good grades, having a lot of pressures on going to college, having a large pressure of being in a school that was relatively rigorous and relatively academic. Um, and because of that, like these ripple effects like kind of like shift onto me of like, oh, like how do we raise our son, like me, like better so that he gets better grades and he doesn't have to do this, so that he is like chilling, you know what I mean, that he can go to a great college. um, and I think I was like relatively good at school, but as a whole I think like um, the pressure and expectations of like, oh, like let's not mess up again, like kind of fell on me, and I was like, yeah. Yeah, and I think so basically like my parents used to throw me into a bunch of like um, throw me a bunch of like summer camps, and we do like some like English training, math training, like one of those things where you do like stuff on the weekend, and then like in the summer like you do like camp every day where you teach, you learn. um, I think now like in retrospect, like I always wish I went to like a summer camp instead and I could just like hang out with people. But yeah, if I have kids one day, I think I might send them to like a summer camp type thing instead of sending them to like an academically rigorous, because like I've never been academically rigorous. But I think it's the expectation, and it's like growing up like I think I'm sorry, first generation. My parents are immigrants. Me growing up first gen Asian American. I think like it's a very common trope that you come across a lot. Um, and it's a very common experience. I think uh, a lot of people that also like feel the same burden and expectations academically too. I also went to a church in um, I went to a church in near my town growing up too. I think um, I don't remember much about it like early in my experience in my like age, but I know like when I was at least my whole grade in my church was very, well, it was mainly girls. I think because of that like also like when you grow up, like it's a little like guys, girls. I don't know. I like maybe like they were. I think they were honestly they were pretty weird. It wasn't me. It was them. They were pretty exclusive. Like what the hell? Like bruh. Yeah, they pissed me off, bruh. But basically like I wasn't that included, and maybe because I was a guy, or maybe because I didn't really get them. But screw them. I hate them. They should. But yeah, as a whole like in my church, I think I felt very lonely the whole time there. My entire like from like elementary school to like um, well, especially like middle school and high school, because you become more aware of it. But I'll touch more about that later. Um, but yeah, and then also like I did a lot of Boy Scouts growing up too. I think um, when you think about like how to prepare your kid best in college, like my parents thought the answer was being an Eagle Scout, right? Me, I was like, sure, but like it turns out like it's a huge commitment. And also like I really dislike camping. I'm like really not into, or like I'm into glamping. I would love to be like glamping, but like camping and setting up a tent, setting up a bear bag, like tying knots, like I will never use those skills now. Or like I'll just like chat GPT or watch a YouTube video before. Um, but yeah, like overall like Boy Scouts, I think it was an interesting experience. I don't have any fond memories of it, honestly, but it was an interesting experience. Um, I think like in terms of Boy Scouts though, I had a lot of arguments with my dad. I remember like just like many times in the car as he was driving me to like Boy Scouts, we'd just be screaming in the car, and then many times like we just went home and didn't even go. I remember those nights pretty clearly because a lot of those nights it like rained, and not to like add to the ambience, but a lot of times like I just like could not deal with it, like and like he couldn't deal with it either. Um, I think my main thing is like I would just like argue to like I like limit testing my parents, and I think I'm not sure if I did the right thing or not, but I think I've always had those traits, like just like bash my head against the wall again and again and again until like it finally worked or until something changed. I think even then, maybe it's my own innate talent. Like I could have done it a lot wiser. I could have been a lot smarter. Honestly I could have communicated way better. But at least back then, like all I knew, and all my abilities was just like bash my head against the wall again and again and again and again until something changed. And if you do it enough times, like something does change. But I don't know if it's the wisest thing to do. But yeah, and I think in terms of grades, my grades weren't trash. Like they're pretty good actually. But I think as a whole, like one key moment I'll reference is like my like first oral loss moment was like 7th grade. What happened was that like I was in like we have like levels of math classes in my high school, in my middle school 7th grade, and that's when you first get split up ever. Like we have like honors math and like regular math and like advanced math, but like in 7th grade is when you truly get split up into differentiating math levels. So like seventh grade, like you either go into like algebra one, and then you do like the graduate with like calc in 11th grade track, or you either do like or in the multivariable track, or you either do pre-calc like advanced and like pre-calc like normal. Yeah, and the thing about like my algebra one class in 7th grade is that like your top 5% of the students in that cohort or in your grade get bundled into algebra one. And the thing about that is like you can't get a grade below an 80, and you can't get you can't get an exam below 80, and you can't get a grade like end grade below I think a B plus, or you would get dropped like after a like semester or quarter. I forgot how it's broken up, but lo and behold, guess who got dropped? Me. I got dropped. It was like it was such a shitty experience because I think like there's only two people that got dropped, me and some other kid, right? And the kid, he was a troll. That dude was actually a troll, right? But me, like, he could not give a shit. Like, he would not care. But for me, like, I actually cared because like I'm constantly getting bombarded with these like subtle like but known expectations from my parents and my sister of like, oh, I need to get good grades. Honestly, like, it's not even my grades. It's like I need to be the best math class. Blah blah blah. I'm so glad I dropped. Like I hate math. But I need to be that, and that was an indicator that I wasn't the best. Like I was like definitively like not the best, and I think just seeing that like low-key like hurt my soul. Yeah, it hurt my soul a lot. And I think just like it was just that like shame and embarrassment of like, oh, like I got moved out of this class because like I wasn't enough, right? Although like I don't want to explain it, but I just remember like freezing up and disassociating, being like, bro. And then like, you know, kids like they would make fun of you and joke. It was never like serious. I do remember a guy that just like I remember a guy like everyone's like pretty mean, and then I remember one of my friends. Honestly, I should hang out with him more. His name is Ben, but I remember he came in like I was like packing my locker and like decided like pat my back. He's like, it's okay. In 7th grade. I don't think he remembers this, but I think I remember pretty clearly. And then I just went to the algebra, the pre-algebra class, which should be fine, but for me, like I just like didn't take it that well, you know. What a word lost moment. And I think one thing about middle school is like, I think that's the first like memory and recollection of when I felt very like stressed and anxious. And in all the times that I'm stressed and anxious, like I would just like stay up. I would stay up at night and just like not sleep because like looking might have stunted my growth. But when I stay up late, like it's like, oh, like I don't need to face the reality of like, oh, I need to wake up one day. When it's like 1 a.m. at night, 2 a.m. at night, 3 a.m. at night, it's like, oh, like the night will last forever. And I was constantly sleep deprived. So two things I'd do is like I'd watch a lot of animes, and then I would play a lot of video games. And that was like a huge issue with my parents because they were not a fan of me playing video games. I played a decent amount of video games. I played like probably like a couple hours a day, and then on the weekends maybe like 5-6 hours. It was my hobby. I think like I love playing games. I'm gonna play games this break when I go home, but yeah. And I think like I remember all the times when I argued with my parents too about games. Like I would never take no for an answer, and I was like kind of addicted, not gonna lie. I remember my dad like trying to stop me and like help me regulate, but he took my whole PC and like moved in to some other place to try to hide it from me. And then I screamed and screamed and screamed, and it eventually came back. I don't know. I just feel like if I scream long enough, things come back or things change, and usually it's for the better. But maybe I'm just being evil or stubborn. But that's how I approached it. That's how I did it. So it's fine. Yeah, that's my like middle school as a whole. I think ever since that algebra 1 moment, I think that's when I became attuned to the feeling of anxiety, and then like shame as well. Like shame from being like not enough, of being moved a grade down, or like a math grade down, and then like anxiety of like, oh, like I don't even know what I was anxious about, but I remember feeling dread. I ended up like, also like this is more 8th grade, but I remember skipping like 17 days of school, until the point where this is actually like a highlight too. Like my parents called the police on me to like make sure I go to school and make sure I'm not held back, because like basically like the school called up, told my parents like, oh, if he skips school like another time, then like he's cooked, he's gonna be held back. and my parents freaked out. So then someone called the police. I think it was my parents, but I don't know. But yeah, as a whole, like, yeah, I just remember them like calling the police and just like, and then like the police like were like, I was like super scared of authority back then. I still am like a little cautious, um, but yeah, so that happened, and then I ended up luckily like 17 days absent, going back to school, and like everything's good, everything's great, um, and high school, as a whole like, mm, as a whole like. Mm, everyone in high school was like super like toxic. Like, yeah, the experiences where people are like beefing, people are roasting each other, people are like, you said, and I think like in some way like you have to like learn to be built to be able to like bite back, to be able to shark back. I think like yeah, I think a lot of my friendships were pretty in a sense like toxic per se. Um, like everyone is negative, everyone is being like everyone is like sharp, and I think like you have to be. And I think it changed the style of how I talked. I think when I went to college, I used to be a lot more like rah, 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 rah. And I still kind of am, but I think like growing up like I feel like you sort of build habits where you have to respond in a very sharp manner, or else you're just gonna be eaten up by your crowd. And maybe that's like very like I also grew up in a very like Asian American um, high school experience where a lot of my friends are Asian American too, and I think that might have contributed to the way we talked and the upbringings too, and the way that we were raised. But as a whole, like I just remember like I just wasn't kind and gentle, and I think like the habits I built up in high school like took so long to look back and like be like oh like maybe this isn't the wisest way to communicate. And even now, like some of my friends still talk the same way, and they never change. And it's like, bro, like grow up. For high school, I think I'll highlight a couple parts. Whereas I used to do track, but then I got injured and I tore my hip flexor. But that's a long story too. I thought I'd be like really cracked at track, and I was my ninth grade, and then I injured my hip flexor, and then I got cooked. Um, yeah, and then yeah, I had big dreams about track, and then I hit reality. Um, as a whole, I think one thing I will talk about a lot is like how stressed I was in my grades and how stressed I was in going to college. Um, my grades were good, but they weren't like Ivy good, I think. I honestly didn't even apply, but I don't even remember what I applied to. But I remember I ED to Northeastern, and then I got in, and I didn't really worry about it. But when I applied, it was during the COVID time. So a lot of stuff was like, we were all like at home, we were all applying. I just remember like during the time of COVID, like I was like so badly like crippled. I think like I felt like so like so anxious, so stressed, and maybe in a sense like depressed too. Though like I never had like a diagnosis. I never had like it just felt like I don't know. I think now like I would love to be diagnosed and take meds. Just kidding, just kidding. But like I just felt so ashamed to be defined by a diagnosis that like in a sense like I probably had like insane anxiety and insane like not insane, but I was probably like clinically depressed. Um, and I think like I just didn't want to get like it checked. I just didn't want and all I did and every day during those years in COVID, I would lay in bed and just like read web novels for 18 hours a day, go to sleep. I'd literally just like eat, sleep, lay in bed. Like my bed, like in bedtime was at least 16 hours a day for a whole year. It was so bad. Like I actually like I lost every single muscle in my body. Like I became a fatty. Like oh my. And what the worst part is like I was so stressed to go to college because I got fat. Like being fat, I'll say it sucks, but it's really hard on you mentally before going to college, especially because you're about to meet two people. So you're like, oh shoot, I gotta be a skinny legend, a skinny shredded legend. But it's hard. Yeah, I didn't want to be fat. Yeah, but as a whole, like, I just remember like the time of COVID, just like being indoors and just not moving. And I think like I actually like tried to stay connected with a lot of friends in the beginning. Like we'd play like they'd play Among Us, and then they'd be in Discord all the time, and they'd always invite me for the first half, and then slowly and steadily like I just like interact with them less and less and less. And I don't know why, but I just remember like at some point responding to texts became less of a thing to do and more of a thing that I was actively afraid of. And I think before COVID, I was always super responsive on text. Well, keep in mind, I only had my phone for like 2 years before because I got my phone like end of 8th grade. But I was always pretty responsive in text. But ever since after COVID, like text like at one point have always like given me dread since. And I think like sometimes like even though someone asks me a question or something like I'm too afraid to address it. I am too afraid to acknowledge a reality that like scares me or too afraid to address things, and because of that I'll just not respond and just hope it vanishes. This happens to like emails, this happens to like responsibilities I had in high school, this happened to a lot of things where like um, dealing with anxiety and dealing with things that should have stressed me out, I addressed them just by closing my eyes and just hoping that things would go away. I would address them by just like just ignoring them and hoping things would get better. And I think like it was a very severe. It wasn't like a very. I just ignored like oh like on my hand. No, it was like oh like you haven't shown up to these kind of things, or like no like you haven't like you're the president of this club but you haven't done anything. You know what I mean? Like where are you? And then they would literally call my parents and be like, are you okay? Um, I think I don't know what kind of anxiety that would be, but I think life at that time was just so scary that the only time I would feel safe was like be curled up in my bed, constantly reading web novels every day, and always on do not disturb or ignoring every single communication. Because like just by living the life of just like reading web novels where I can envision the life of these like fantasy characters, like reborn another world or like cultivation shit, like just like being able to live those lives in a completely different reality. I think like it took away the expectations, burden, and pressures that I needed to face in real life, even if they weren't a lot. But for me, like they felt so crushing, and it came to a point where it was so crushing, where like my only response was this negative bad habit of reading novels again and again and again, and hope that like my problems go away, and hope that like I just like don't feel this way, or and just and it did work. Like when I read these novels, and when I like when I distracted myself, like I didn't feel like anxious. I finally felt like oh like I felt at peace. But the moment I turned it down, I opened up my messages, I opened up like my emails, I opened up something like my world, my peace went crashing. And I know like I should have just addressed it. I should have just got it. I should have just done everything. I should have just completed everything. I should have just responded to everyone, but I couldn't. Like I truly couldn't. Like my like feet would sweat. I would like shake. I would get my heart would palpitate. Like yeah, maybe it wasn't really depression, but it was just like an insane level of anxiety where like the reality I lived was too heavy, and the reality that like I needed to face, um, even if to many people it meant nothing, but for me it was like the whole world was like collapsing. And I think because of that, it's always important that I think now that like just because someone's issues don't seem like a lot, and just because they seem very simple, like give them grace and give them gentleness. Because like even though like I was feeling anxious when responding to a text or a friend asking to hang out, oh, do you want to hop on Among Us? Just seeing that text was something that I need to do or I need to respond to, and that itself was so stressful now. So like that was so like heavy on me. So even the lightest things like I think can collapse someone's world. And I think like it's so I don't know. I think like it's really jumping conclusions like oh like maybe I was a bad guy and like I just didn't care, or like maybe I just like didn't care about my responsibilities. I just flaked and like I thought this club was worthless, or maybe like oh like I just don't care about grades after getting in college, or but I did care. I cared so much where like the expectation and the fact that maybe I could have failed people was so heavy where I could only close my eyes and hope that things would get better. Um, yeah, I think like COVID was just probably like one of the worst times of my life. Maybe like second worst time of my life. There was a time in college that's miserable, but second worst time of my life because um, nothing got better. And I think it was only until my senior trip I hung out with friends. I think like I had my first real interaction again that I slowly began like practicing getting out of my shell and getting my comfort zone one more time. But it was just hard. I think like honestly like I don't know if it. I think the only thing that could have fixed me was just change. I think the fact that like I was getting older, I was about to go to college, and then we were doing a senior trip thing, and things were changing. I think that was the one thing that helped me heal and like get a little better, because like just the fact that there's change is like another chance for me to be able to like meet new people, get new interactions, and have a chance for me to like rediscover myself and really like realize that like, oh, like maybe it's like not that deep, or maybe it's like not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Um, I think change is like super important for anyone. Um, I think like it's hard to to like navigate change, but I think like whenever there's change, I always like encourage it. I always encourage people to like try changing, whether it's environment, whether it's people, whether it's a relationship, not relationship, but like changing whatever they can, because you never know like what you'll come into, and you'll never know like um, what you might encounter as well. So yeah, I think if you're ever in a rut, I think, and if you're in a rut and you really feel like there's nothing that can get better, um, I think enough change will always give yourself a chance to like live again. I think if you're truly crippled by these things, like try, keep trying, try again, try differently, try different people, and one day we'll get better. Um, but yeah, and as a whole, like I was raised Christian. I think like my faith was always a very like different. I don't know. I didn't love my church growing up, just because I always felt like I was constantly excluded. I was constantly pushed, like not like marginalized, but just like I was just like constantly like like I just wanted to like, it was just such an awkward spot when sermons ended, and then like I would just be sitting on a couch all alone and just like waiting for my parents to done. It was such an embarrassing feeling, and people ask, oh, like why don't you just talk to them? Why don't you just talk to them? But like I tried talking to people. I tried like, and people just wouldn't. I just like couldn't connect with people. And just like the uncles aunties would just look at me and be like, I just felt so embarrassed, and they'd be like, oh, like what's wrong? Just like talk to people. Just like talk to them over there. But like it's not like I didn't want to. I wanted to, and I just, but like there's not many guys in my grade, and there were only girls, and sometimes we talked and hung out, but like especially like when you're in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you're not like as like mature enough and capable of like handling like, I don't know. At least for me, that was pretty awkward around guys, around girls. Um, yeah, I think like, but yeah, I think my faith growing up in like high school was very like, I technically became a believer in like 7th grade at a retreat, but I think it's very different from my understanding now. I think a lot of it was just like this the safety that knowing that like God exists, and knowing that like I can like build my life with God. Um, that gave me a lot of reassurance, especially in a time that like I was full of anxiety and full of stress. Um, in my own mental framework that was like full of anxiousness, like I think like believing God like helped me navigate that, because when everything collapsed, um, at least I knew that God existed, and that helped me a lot to be able to navigate a lot of things. But yeah, that was my relationship like with God in high school, and it was very interesting. I think I had a hard time like, I think when I got into college, going to college, my one hope was community, um, both in church and both outside too. Um, Community is so strong, so important, because in the community that I didn't have because of COVID, in the community that I lost because of COVID, in the community that I was never able to form in my expectation of like, oh, like how high school should have been, but in the community that I never had at my church, um, I just like, I so deeply craved a community, and I think like I just like, I kept trying, but I never was able to find a community. I think like it just feels like shit. Not like, just like wanting to find people that like that are your people, but never finding them. And I think everyone always told me like you would find them, but like I never did. Um, and yeah, then I went to college, um, and just going into college, like I had couple, um, a couple of things that like I really wanted. Um, Number thing I wanted was just like friends. I think like, I don't know how I would describe it back then, but I just wanted to be like that group. I just wanted that group of friends that were like had aura, that like was walked around, like everyone knew who you were, and I wanted to be in a group that like where I could be like included to, not just like that I'm invited, but that I'm actually like a present contributor in the group too. Um, I remember like my first, I lost so much aura in the beginning of college. 'Cause I literally asked like, oh like, how do I make friends? Like I don't get it, and I didn't get it. Like I didn't know how you make friends, um, because like all I wanted in college was friends. Like I thought it'd be super easy. I thought I'd be like clubbing it out my freshman year, but like all I did was like be weird and like be awkward. Like I don't know what was wrong with, or I know what was wrong with me back then. Um, I think like my whole like freshman fall semester, like I I thought like yeah, I thought I'd have like 1,000 friends, everyone knew me, I'd be cool. Um, and then I jump into a relationship or something. Um, just didn't work out. Like yeah, it just didn't work out. Um, I thought yeah, I just didn't know like I I think looking back, I think the issue that was like really prevalent was like the fact that I wasn't really curious about people. I wasn't really like interested in people honestly, but I just had this constant fear of having no friends. Um, and I would just constantly complain this with my friends that I'd make. Be like, wow, it's so hard to make friends, so hard to make friends, so hard to meet people, so hard to make friends. It was actually like really easy to meet people in retrospect now, but like it was like so hard to make friends. It's not that hard, bro. Like, um, I think like one thing I actually started saying, I was like, oh, like I really want like a god complex, cause like I felt like I was like so like fragile. Like the fact that I had no friends like really hurt me at my core. The fact that like I wasn't the first person that people texted like hurt me at the core too. And the fact that like um I was always invited, but like no one like ever like needed me, like hurt me at my core. And I think like I don't know, like I always knew I was fragile, but I was like, oh shoot, like I just wish I had a god complex where like these little things and like things that people would say about me and the things that people like wouldn't say about me, like and the times that people won't write me, it wouldn't hurt me. So I wish like I could have a god complex of like I would be like invincible and immune. That like oh like I just wouldn't care about what anyone said because I am like so much better and that I am like so confident. My understanding of confidence was like invincibility, where like I could be so strong, so powerful. Where these things that people thought or didn't think about me or didn't invite me, just like would just bounce off my aura and just like I'd be like and just like not care. Um, yeah, that didn't work. Yeah, I always cared. Um, whether it was my church in my first year, whether it was like like a lot of like, the Asian culture club I joined, or whether it was other stuff I joined too. I think like I didn't really care about like Asian culture. I didn't really care about like Christianity back then. I didn't really care about all these like dumb things that I was doing, like gingerbread house making. But what I did care about was like I just wanted to like find a group of friends that was like my group. I didn't want to find just a friend. I wanted to find the group of friends, and I want to be included in groups too. But um, it just like never worked out. Like I just couldn't find the group that always worked out. I think like the fact that like my whole like last year of high school, like I felt I had these imaginary dreams of like oh like this is what friendship was gonna look like in college, all like crumble and shatter. Like I know I had many years in college to figure this out. Right? I mean I know I had like all the time in the world to discover myself, but like every day that ticked by, every month that ticked by, and as the semester came close to the end, like I know like it takes time. You find your people, like you'll find it eventually. But like, what if you don't find your people, right? Like that could happen too, right? Um, I think this pressure was just like really, really getting to me. I think like it was just like if you want to be yourself, like you have to be confident, right? But how can you be confident if like you have no one to support you? You know what I mean? I think, and that's why I resulted in this like God complex kind of ideology, where it's like, oh, like if I'm so invincible, like then maybe like finally some group of people will like me, but I was also hella down bad too, but whatever. Yeah, I think whenever I saw people in friendships that like were in that group and worked together, it's like I'd always be jealous of them, and I'd always want to be one of them. But when I was in my similar groups, people like I don't think I was a good person because I was constantly like thinking about how I could make more friends, how I could make more friends, and to be honest, like I didn't really care about the people back then, or I didn't really have much care about them because like not that I'm not a caring person, but I was just so afraid of like having no people. And I think that fear like really like broke me down and really like struck a different chord in me to like constantly like search. Um, and yeah, I think another thing to mention is like as I went to my second semester, like my top concern has always been like meeting new people. So like another semester to try again, like new people, a bunch of people from NUN, like which is like Northeastern's like study abroad program came back. I met a ton of people, and I was like, yes, like this is my chance to start again. Right, my high school failed, like my friendships there were like chopped at the end. Not actually chopped, but like I felt like they were chopped at the time. And then also like, oh, my first semester was chopped. Like I met a bunch of people. Like, where is actually my group? Like second semester, I will find my group. Um, and in a sense, like second semester was also like a failure too. Like, I met a bunch of new people, and I had groups. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, it just never felt like I was like the top priority in the group. You know what I mean? Like, we would be a group of people that would hang out, but we were never like the main group. You know what I mean? They had other friends, they had other groups, and they had like main other core people that they'd hang out with. Um, and just I just felt so like tired because like all I just wanted was friends, but like why was it so hard to just like find friends? Yes, I know like I was a problem, but like all I actually wanted, like deep down, was just to find people that would care about me and could care about and that would care about me and like be my friend. That being said, like I wasn't in the right mind to be able to be a good friend to them too, but all I deep down craved was like a community, like friends that like wanted me and that were excited to see me, not because of proximity, but simply because like something about me was like something that like they wanted to like hang out with, not because like we had class together, not because we were in this club, but like, oh, like you want to make time to like hang out with me, like that'd be so sweet, you know. And then yeah, and the thing is like, mm, thing about this is like in the summer of my freshman year, like into my second year, I also like traveled again. I went to study abroad in South Korea, um, and that was also like my second chance. Um, that was my first fresh. I mean, second semester fresh start, like kind of fresh start, but you're kind of surrounded by the same people. But going to study abroad is like, oh, like these are new people. Like these are people that like I'm gonna like meet again. These are people that like no one knows me. That like I can finally try again. Um, I started like reading like books of like, oh, like how to win friends and influence others, like by like Dale Carnegie. And I read a bunch of self help books of like how do I make friends? How do I like meet people? How do I like be myself? How do I be my best self to like meet friends? And to be completely honest, I did meet friends in South Korea, but I was also like I also see it as like a failure in a sense too, because I never like found a community of people that like really like wanted me because of me. Simply because of proximity, we enjoyed hanging out together, and I did meet like afterwards. Like we got a lot closer. But like when I was there, like I did deep down feel a little bitter too, because like I also feel like no one really understood me. You know what I mean? I think I just wanted like that group, and we had a group in Korea, but um, it was good. It was very fun, very special. But like it wasn't like the group, you know. And um, I think like it was just like a very subtly sad feeling and just a very disappointing feeling knowing that like, oh, like I always just wanted this group, and people always told me like you'll find them, you'll find them, you'll find them. But like look what happened, right? My whole like freshman year fall, freshman year spring, freshman year summer, um, like each one of them, in all my goals, like it wasn't to get good grades. It was also like my whole like dream of the college experience was like have that college experience and have a group that like really cared for me, and not and have like an aura forming group, um, and just like never happened. So yeah, and then during my sophomore year fall, I got accepted to like a program that make me move to SF in California, and I would live there for 4 months and do like an internship on the side, and then like also do classes. Um, that was such an interesting experience because like that fall like that fall was also like another fresh start too. It's like I feel like I'm very lucky because like my entire life like I'm given like so many fresh starts, and I'm constantly seeking out fresh starts. I think a lot of it is like on the basis that like, oh, like I felt constantly frustrated and I always wanted to try again. And also because I'm very lucky too that like these circumstances, like these experiences and these things did fall in my lap and I was able to like try again. Um, I think like once again like I know like in the best story like it's like, oh, like after all my time struggling in my sophomore fall, like I finally found my people, but like honestly like the exact same thing happened. Like I met a bunch of people too, but like it was probably even worse than that summer in South Korea because like by the end of that semester I was just rotting in bed and just like laying down, not leaving my room, spending like a couple like very few hours meeting people, hanging out with people. Like I think like it did very shape me in the fact that like I like learned a lot of myself and I was given another chance to try. And honestly, like what I ended up doing was like there was a Christian fellowship at Berkeley, so I ended up twice a week commuting to Berkeley because like um, I just wanted to like meet people and like talk to people. But deep down, like I just like I mean like people like were like, oh, like wow, like your faith must be crazy to always come out here. Um, but like I like did not care. I just like wanted to find friends that like cared about me and wanted to like I just wanted to like and also a relationship. I was like I really wanted to be in a relationship too. Um, yeah, like I think COVID as a whole like left me very like fragmented where I had such a lacking of community and friendships where and growing up in my circumstances and then like it was just like tiring like constantly having these like dreams of just finding friends, right? And like maybe it's not too high of a dream, but for me like it's all I want at the time, like find friends. I feel like I'm just like on an autopilot, saying the same thing over and over. But it is true. Like, I just wanted like friends, um, and one thing that did strike out a chord though was my time when I went to the Christian club at Berkeley. Like, they actually invited me to a conference in Southern California that winter, and like I was like, okay, I'll go. I can meet people or find some baddies. I don't know. Um, so I signed up and I went. Um, I think one thing that I do realize is that even if I didn't find friends, I think for the first time, like, I found out what it means to be loved and cared for. One thing I really love the community there is like, they would always buy me food and always drive me around. So what they would do is like literally drive me like all the way from NorCal all the way to SoCal, and like they would like buy me popcorn, chicken, and boba when I went there occasionally. When I went there for a lot of the nights afterwards, and like I wouldn't even pay anything. They would just the upperclassmen would buy stuff for me. I'm like, shit, bro, like this is fire. Um, and I think like seeing how hard they would work for me, like that like level of like acts of service, like really shook me at my core because like the one thing I did realize was like even if they weren't like my friends per se, where I felt like I was in like community or we were like besties, um, the fact that like someone would go out of the way to spend like actual money on me, like was such a weird feeling because like I would look at myself and like I wouldn't find myself special in any way. I wouldn't not like I like I have a hard time being loved, but like I think in the back of my mind I'd always be wondering, oh, like what about me is like really worth spending so much time. Like they literally drive from Berkeley all the way to San Jose, which is like a 45 or like an hour drive. It's not a short commute. And they just treat me so lovingly. And yeah, that question of oh like why? I think that really set the foundation of like why I pursued understanding my relationship with God and faith, and also understanding why like and how it means to like be loved. I think like just that the fact that like people like for a stranger that didn't even go to this school. I didn't go to UC Berkeley, but I literally lived in SF. I didn't even live in Berkeley, but I would commute twice a week to Berkeley, and they would treat me like so lovingly. I think it was just so like strange, just a strange feeling like oh like wow, like I wonder why they act like this, and I wonder why they're so like kind and loving to me. Um, And the same way, I think like the feeling when you're completely worthless and having people buy it and treat you, even if $5 like didn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, like for me it meant the world, and like the world was given to me because someone showed me care, even if they personally didn't buy with me. The fact that they went out of the way to care for me, like wow, like I am like so lucky. I'm so blessed to like find people that like would do this. Um, One thing is that like when I did go to um, SoCal for the retreat though, like my big in the club treated me super well. He let me stay at his place for a couple of days, and then when I went to the retreat down in LA, I think I really was like enlightened in that retreat. I think the one thing I think a lot about was my like relationship with my parents. I think um, it's always been pretty like choppy, always arguing, always beefing. Um, like I've always like, even though like I didn't mention it like just now, but like whether it was high school, whether it was middle school, whether it was early college too, like we would constantly be yelling. Um, I think like especially in that retreat, I think one lesson I learned was like, oh, like in the same way that I'm like a precious child of God, like so are they. They're also like a precious child as well. Like they are also so like they're just a child, and just as though it's like it's my first time living, it's like also my parents' first time living. And I think that realization and that one day in that evening on December 2020 um, 3 was just um, such an interesting experience. Just such an interesting experience. I think like I I just like I always had like a very like choppy-ish relationship with my parents, especially my mom too, especially. Um, it's a weird feeling because like I think it's like, have you ever been loved so much where it's like overbearing? And when I explain my story sometimes, like it's a little tiring because like a lot of people be like, oh, like that should be a good thing. You should feel grateful. Like not everyone has that. Not everyone has a parent that like loves you so much, that always does things to you, that always like checks in on you. That always like, but like the thing is like, mm, the thing is like, it's like such an overbearing feeling sometimes. Like I one thing I'll reference is like in my like freshman year too. Like one thing my mom did one time when I was sick is like she ended up calling the Northeastern police to check up on me because I was sick. I didn't respond for a couple hours, and she literally called the police to make sure I was good. And when I talked to her afterwards, or when I like angrily sent her that giant paragraph, she was like, I was like, why'd you do that? Blah, 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 I'm gonna. Um, she was like, oh, like, I mean, mom, I just want to check in on you. I just want to like make sure you're good. You know what I mean? Um, and this is a very extreme case, but this happens a lot where like I almost felt like my parents, especially my mom, would always step in and be like, oh, like, I want to love you well. I want to do things for you. I want to do blah, blah, blah. I want to do this. Like, I want to check in. You need, like, I want you to text me back so I make sure you're okay. I want to do this and that, blah, 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 as a mom. But, um, and then when I did, like, open up to her occasionally and tell her, like, things that are hard, it's like, oh, like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be friends with the person. Like, why'd you do that? Like, don't do this. Don't do this. Um, it's like such a like sad feeling. I think, um, yeah, it's a really like sad feeling knowing that like all I ever wanted was like be heard by my mom, and not like she doesn't care, but it's like uh, so suffocated because I don't need a parent that like I don't need a mother that can always like jump in, that can be there whenever. I just want a parent that can understand me and like hear me and like listen to me, and like the times that I cry, like I just want them to like hold me and like understand me and not like try to fix me or try to fix me or try to shape me in a way that like they think is best for the son. I just like want to like be held and given space and just be understood because like yeah, I think something I always wanted was just like to be heard. And I think when I explain like, oh, like why would you call the police on me checking like, oh, like I'm your mom, I want to make sure you're good, but like I don't I don't I don't need you to remind me how much you care about me. I know, but like ultimately like what about me? Like what do like like what do I actually need, right? Like um I think like it's a very selfish thought. Like, oh, like what about me? What I actually need? But like, I think it's a thought that I hold really true to heart. Like, oh, like what I actually needed was someone that like understood me, was curious about me, cared for me in a way that wasn't their expectation of like, oh, like how do I raise my son well? How do I make sure he's good? How do I make sure he's supported? Oh, but instead it's like, I just wish that like it could have been like, oh, like how can I create a safe space for my son to be able to share, to be able to tell people, to be able to trust me, to be able to stick in the place that he needs me most, right? Um, I say this knowing that like I don't live a very like tough family relationship compared to a lot of people I know. It's not like this is like some like dramatic. It's not like this is very. It's not like a horrendous like experience or whatever. But um, and I know many people have worse off. But like even though I know many people live tougher, more harsher lives, the fact that like my feelings still exist too, and like all I ever want and all I hope to be want to need, I don't need financial funds. I don't need someone to like be present like always. I just hope that like my family can be there when I need when I actually need them, and that they can listen to me, they can understand me, they can see me, not as the son they expect to raise, not as a son um, they think is ideal for the world, but not the son that they're most confident and proud of sharing to their friends, but simply as a son, simply they can look at the son that is shaped by his experiences, shaped by the world, and shaped by all these circumstances, and look at me and still think I am precious, not because I am just their son, but simply because something about me is still beautiful to them, right? I think it's a weird experience, like to be burdened by love, but I think it's because like all I ever need and all I hope and all I think I value like to such a far extent is to be seen and heard. And I think whether it's the lack of sight from like my friends or the lack of friends to understand me, or whether it's like a very sad craving of always just wanting my parents to like understand me at my core, not because I'm their son, but simply because something about me is curious about them, is curious to them. I think that retreat really helped me to be able to like get some thought about it and get some perspective. I think like it's not their fault they're never raised to be able to understand their child well. It's not because it's not their fault, but they seem like it's okay. Like my feelings also exist. My feelings are also true. I think like it's important to like not negate it. Like just because other people live harsher lives, or just because like other people live like tough lives too, doesn't mean like my feelings don't exist. My feelings and how heavy it feels and how sad it feels, knowing that like for so many instances like I have nowhere to run to, no one to go to, because I would just get feedback on how I can better myself instead of just someone to just hold me when I actually need them. Like it could be worse, but like it still like breaks my heart knowing that like sometimes I feel that way and I feel like I have no one good to go to. Um, yeah, I think it was a very interesting experience. Um, I think it was a pretty interesting experience going into my spring semester of my sophomore year, um, because like that was probably the first time that I actually ever felt community. I moved to LA for a co-op at Northeastern, so I was working at a finance fund doing data role. It was my first like big boy job where I was making a lot of money, and I like low key like I was low key shit at that job. I like did nothing well, but living in LA was like the best experience of my life because I felt that finally after all these years of suffering and all these years of struggling of not having friends, I finally found a community that like actually cared about me. I went to a dance team. I joined a church. I joined the clubs at UCLA. I lived on UCLA campus, and it was like the best 6 months of my life. Those 2 quarters like changed my life because finally I failed my high school. I failed my freshman year fall. I failed my freshman year spring. I failed my summer study abroad in Korea. I failed my fall semester in like San Francisco. But like finally, like after bashing my head against the wall enough times, like I finally found communities that like finally cared for me. And I think like it's not just like the joy of like finding communities that like finally understand you, but the fact that I failed for so long and like finally I found a community that like that community, not just one community, communities like all these pies fell out of nowhere, and like these communities that like cherished me and like actually would care for me, and like I would have like late night talks. I would sit by the beach and have late night talks in the car like with music in the background, just like talking for hours upon hours, and like we get late night food on the hill at UCLA, and then we'd eat at like till 2 a.m. And then I would go to sleep at 3 a.m. and then wake up at 7 and go to work. But because I was so happy, like after 4 or 5 hours of sleep a day for months upon months, like it didn't matter because like every day like I woke up so excited to live. Like you don't understand like how like I wasn't necessarily depressed, but like all I ever wanted was a community. All I ever wanted was like friends that like a group that like actually cherished me, and a group that like I felt so connected to, and I did. I had that. And every day in LA, like I didn't even make plans. Like I'm not a planner, but people kept inviting me. Like not to like brag, but like people kept inviting me to different things, and like every single day was like so luckily booked where like I never needed to like make plans because like things just fell in my lap so perfectly. And um, yeah, I think like I don't have much thoughts on the actual experience in living in LA. Just like I felt that like finally like things do get better, right? I think finally like all the frustration that I felt in terms of like um, not finding communities, like I felt so like loved, seen, and cared for in a community that like once again like I didn't belong to. I didn't belong in this community. Like I didn't belong in UCLA, but UCLA will always hold a special place in my heart um, because of just how breathtaking and how it truly opened my eyes to like what the feeling was to be loved, to be seen, and be cared for. Um, yeah, I'm just like constantly in awe, and like I'm so deeply indebted to all the people at UCLA because even though I'm not that connected to them now, like they treated me like so well, and I think like they're the best people in the world. I think like I'm so grateful for that experience and for those people in that very moment for also driving me around, buying me food too, and I also bought people food too. Like it swiping me in the in the dining hall like Deneb, Epic, D Plate, late night food carts. Like I'm actually like so happy. Like it actually changed my life because for once like I felt like seen special. Um, I also met my ex-girlfriend um, in LA. I think at the end of the experience, um, we dated for 8 months. I think it was a very interesting experience. Um, yeah, no, it was pretty chopped. Um, it was for a mission trip, and I would talk about missions, but I don't want to take too much time. But missions was such a great experience itself, but um, because we're in the same mission team, like it was very like tough. We kept it secret. And it was really really complicated. Um, but as a whole, in my relationship with her in those 8 months, we um, broke up like 34 times, and I think like I every now and then look through my notes app, and I looked through the notes back then. I think um, I just remember like how hard it was on me. Um, like the thing is like in that relationship, like I would always say like, oh like love is enough. Love is enough to make things work. Like oh like if there's enough love, like we can make it work. Oh like I'm gonna marry you one day. Like this is gonna work out one day. Like as long as you try hard enough, like things will work out. And yes, I was a little foolish, and yes, I wasn't the most wise. Yes, I could have been a lot smarter at these things, but like ultimately deep down, like I was just the boy that like wanted to try his best and to make things work out. For most of them in the beginning, like she broke up with me, and I was trying to fix things. Like oh like, and like these breakups were very like all over the place at first. At first they're like oh like, but I know a lot of them start spiraling to like oh because you didn't like because you fell asleep um, on FaceTime, like oh like you just don't care about me, or like because like you told me to be home by 8 and like you're not home now, like I can't deal with this anymore, you know what I mean? Or And then a lot of the reasons were some were valid too, like, oh, like I don't know if we can do long distance. So then like she lived in LA, I lived in Boston, so I'll do my best to fly over once a month, and make things work out. And I think like like I mean, even moments where like, oh, like I didn't like carry her back, or like I didn't pay for the food, where it's like, oh, like I didn't offer pay, like, oh, clearly like I'm not being a gentleman, like I must not be a good boyfriend, like, oh, let's just break up. That's the reason. Oh, if I don't carry your bag, like carry the bag, like I'm not doing a good job at being a boyfriend either, like let's break up. Um, yes, I should have stood up for myself. Yes, I should have been wiser. But all I ever wanted was like for that relationship to work out. All I wanted, and I couldn't imagine a world where it wouldn't. So I would do everything to make it work, right? I would do everything in my power to like make things work out. I would do everything I could um, to make it work, and I think it was just a very like tough experience. Like I didn't want to tell my friends too for a long time because like I'm not a fool. Like I knew it was bad. I knew my relationship was choppy. I knew it was so toxic. I knew it was like such a rough experience. I knew my friends would be horrified if they knew how often we were breaking up, why we were breaking up, and the extent of the toll it held on me. But because I knew how bad it was, like I couldn't tell my friends, right? Like even if I could forgive her, like my friends would not. My friends would hold grudges. And I think like I know the hardest thing to convince, like you can always forgive your partner, but like your friends, like it's like impossible to like convince them to forgive your partner. Um, I just remember like having so many nights where I'd be crying on my beanbag, like with like not like the gentle crying, like but like the crying where it's like my snot is coming out, like I'm like breathing heavily, I can't fall asleep until I get dizzy. I'm crying so hard where I feel dizzy, and then all of a sudden I like knock out and wake up in the morning with like a ruined face. I think um, I remember like praying so much that time too. Oh, like God, like please, please, please make it work out. Like God, um, like all I ever imagined, like please in some way, like I know you are so powerful, just please make it work out. And ultimately, like it didn't work out. I think I think in that time, like I I got so hurt, so deeply like destroyed too. Um, I think the only reason why I was able to finally let go is like I think I felt like I was in so much pain that I stopped feeling pain. Where like truly for a couple months, like my life for a long time, like afterwards, like for a couple months at the end of the relationship, and then also like 6 months afterwards, like I feel like I lost color in life. Like life just felt so numb. Where like I would laugh, I would like smile, I would meet people, I'd talk to new people, but like um, I just like felt so like numb and dissociated from life. And I felt like the world just lost color. Um, and maybe this feels dramatic, but like I like truly felt this way too. Like, and I just like I knew something's wrong with me. I knew I had to move on, but like I just didn't know how to move on. I think like uh, it was just such a tough process, um, because like in some way like oh it's not that deep, but for me it was like each and every time we broke up, all 34 times, like my world collapsed. Like because like because I couldn't imagine a world where it didn't work out. Like each and every time it was like painfully torn away from me was another day and another week where like I felt like I had to give everything up to like make sure to do my best to make it work. And like if I worked hard enough, I tried hard enough, like maybe it could work out. It had to work out because I couldn't imagine a world where it didn't work out. Um, until a time where I felt so numb, where like no matter what happened, no matter how like no matter what she said back to me, no matter what she told me, no matter what, like it just like stopped hurting. And I think like um, I don't think I would have ever given up, but I think like the fact that like I became so numb where like I lost so much like touch with reality and touch myself. I think um, like I'm glad that happened because I couldn't imagine me being mature enough to walk away. But um, it was such a like cruel experience. I think as a whole. Um, yeah, it's such a like tough experience. Um, I think it was hard too because I think a lot of my friends would be like, "Oh, like it's okay. It's like you'll move on, you'll move on." But like, the thing is like, I didn't need someone to fix me, right? I didn't need someone to like tell me how to move on, how to be better. Like I just like on that time, like all I deeply craved was for someone just like hold me and like let me know that it's okay. Like I just want someone to like hear me out, tell me how, like let me share how I felt, and hold me and like remind me that like it's okay, right? Like it's gonna not like it's gonna work out, but like the feelings and the psychoness and like all the insanity that I just went through, like it's okay. Like I'm still like precious too, right? And I think it's just so hard to look myself in any positive way because all I saw was just like a shattered body of like all the things that I couldn't do enough, all the things that I wasn't good enough, all the things that I wasn't doing well enough, all the things that I was a failure of a boyfriend, all the things that I couldn't do. I think it's just such a tough time to like go through, and I think it was lonely um, because I think it was easy to feel like oh like I was just being dramatic and that, like my pain wasn't that deep and I'll get over it, um, but it meant the world to me, so it like truly hurt me. Um, for that was a lot of my like spring of my junior year too, and I think like of my fall of junior year, and I think my whole spring of junior year was like the recovery process. Um, yeah, I just remember I feeling so disassociated. Um, there was times that I just like I remember calling the Northeastern hotline at one point and just like asking to try the therapy too because like I was at such a low point, it's such a dissociated point that it's like nothing I knew worked out, and like I just needed to try something in the same way that I tried moving to find friends my whole like underclassmen years. I had to keep trying, and like it didn't work. The Northeastern like it wasn't good quality, but like I had to try something. I just remember like called the hotline because I just like felt so numb one day and I just like didn't know what to do, and it was just like it was a tough process. Um, I remember like that's that spring I met like a lot of great people. Like I think one of my friends, um, I also did another co-op in spring. I met my friends Iggy and he was just so good to me. I think my time there, um, I think in some ways that like he created a safe space for me to like yap, talk to him, and we were both crashing at the time too. I think just like talking to him for hours upon hours during work hours, like on like the 20th on the 24th, just talking, was such a nice experience because like um, I think he felt like in the time where no one could understand me, he felt so safe. And I think like it's crazy. Like I can never imagine like it was a co-op that I didn't really like, a job that I didn't really enjoy, but like I'm actually so grateful for it because like it really shifted the way of how I see things, and I feel like it was so worth it because I'm so lucky to meet people like him, both at that time and in the future too. Um, that summer, I moved to SF again for an internship, and it was such an interesting time because I remember like thinking, oh like, wow, like the whole time that summer, like I was still crashing out. My great thought was like, oh like, why did this all happen to me? Like, why did I like how come like I felt this way? Like how come I'm like I'd pray to God and be like, oh God, like why did you make me so fragile? Why did you make me so weak? Like all I ever wanted was to be confident, to have this, to be like invincible, and like why did you shape me so like painfully? Where things that shouldn't be that deep, like crushed me again and again and again, and why did you not give me the courage to stand up? Like I wanted to stand up and leave, but I couldn't. I just like physically couldn't without my heart hurting. Um, I think I spent a lot of time wondering, but likewise, like in the same time, like in that SF like time, it was just like my LA experience where I met so many great people, so many great friends that I'm still good friends with now, and I think like it really gave me a second chance to like oh like what it means to be happy again, what it means to live again, and I think it was in that time I really learned to like actually move on. It was such a healing experience because like just like another breath and a fresh air of like what it means to have joy and to take a step back. I think it's really easy to be stuck in a situation where I was in Boston and I was constantly around the same people, um, and it was good. Like it was great people, but like I think having a chance to like live again and be cared for and be loved again by other people, and that people like understand my story and empathize, sympathize, and be curious about that story, and look at it gently too. I think like I'm so lucky for that spirit in SF. Um, yeah, I think in my fall semester, my senior year, I I think throughout the fall, I think I really discovered like honestly my like purpose in life too. I think like I did a lot of mentorship, a lot of community work. I did like freshman mentorship for my business school, and then community work for a lot of the international students, and then a lot of like underclassmen too. Um, I think for a long time during that fall, like I just loved like mentoring stuff, and I didn't know how to feel back then. But in the same way that people cared for me at Berkeley, in the same way people cared for me in SF, in the same way that people cared for me in LA, so welcomingly, I hope that I can provide the same experience, even if I'm not that qualified. Not that I'm like, not that even though I'm not that competent, right? I'm just a boy, you know, I'm just a senior that doesn't know much. I hope that I can provide the same experience, provide the same sort of love to the people that didn't have that love, right? So that people like me didn't exist again. I know that's theoretically impossible, but like I want to do that so badly. I think in that whole semester, like I did a lot of life stories too, in the same way that I'm sharing to this camera right now. But um, I remember like throughout this, I just remember like that December, like doing life stories with one person, um, and like as she was sharing her life, um, I've done a couple life stories in the past, but I just remember feeling like, oh, like this is like so precious. And then that December, like a year ago, it like finally like clicked to me, like maybe like all my pains, whether it's my parents or the relationships or whether it's my friendships, like even though like I'm so dramatic and I'm so fragile and so weak, like I'm like so glad that I was born this way, that I was shaped in this manner by God. Like I think like I just remember like, oh, like whether it's my mentorship in the past or whether it's just like this one moment that I remember clearly, like, oh, like I'm so lucky that like these pains that shaped me to who I am today and back then, like I'm so glad it made me and it formed the foundation of being able to empathize, understand, and sympathize with other people that also share similar pains in different fonts, that also share similar challenges in different fonts, that also in their lowest moments can't communicate and just can't share and just like me are crippled by their own feelings of just like of such a heavy burden. I think like for many times after that too, sorry for that moment and both around too, I just remember like, oh, like I am so lucky that I'm so fragile. Like I'm so lucky I have the privilege to be able to sympathize, empathize, and understand so many people that are hurting, feel so lonely, or feel so crushed by their own feelings, and are lost in their own mind and just need to be loved in ways that like no one else can love them. I think, um, yeah, I think that spring semester, like, um, that spring semester, like I I had a hard time too. I was working a very tough job too, and it was my senior year too, and I felt like very like all over the place, not sure what to do post grad. Should I build a startup? Should I do blah blah blah? Should I just like? And then I started hosting events too. And I think like when I started hosting events, I started thinking about a lot of my time like in the in my SF time, right? When I met a lot of people through mutual events and through safe spaces, and I hope like in the same way that like in Boston, in New York City, and like SF, there are a ton of events that are happening this summer for interns. I hope that in the same way that people provided like a third space for me to meet people, for me to understand people, for me to be curious with people. I hope that I can provide the same thing during that summer to other people as well. And I think I'm such a bad host. I'm not talented. I'm not gifted. I get so stressed, but it was such a great time because it really laid the foundation of like what is important to me. I think as I worked at this, and then afterwards, like I traveled to Turkey, and then I went back to teach English for a couple weeks, and then I came back here to work at a startup, and then I continued hosting, but at a smaller scale too. And I'm still doing it now. I need to honestly plan my event for like early January soon. Um, I think as I think about my life, like I am like full of a bunch of like weird feelings because like I think like I'm just like a ball of like confusion, like pain, crash outs, loneliness, feeling misunderstood, misconstrued, and just like feeling like such this like bitter feeling of like, oh, like why am I made this way? Why am I shaped this way? Like, oh, like I've always just wanted to be like those cool kids in what I expected of like college students. I always wanted to be like I just wanted to like have friends and just like be wanted naturally. Like why do I have to fight my way, like claw my way to figure this out? Like why I just want to be like seen and just be cared for and just like be someone's first choice. And I think like as I think about like why my life is even like shaped like this, um I think like in some way like it all worked out. Like I got so much clarity. Um I got so much to relate because I think both in the life that I've lived up to now, whether it's my parents, whether it's my relationships, or whether it's um, the friends I couldn't find or I have found, I think the most important part to that is like to be seen is to be loved, and I adore that saying to the fullest because I hope that I live the rest of my life constantly pursuing sight to understand everyone, that I have the space to understand, and in that as well, being able to love them in the most insightful, sightly way that I can. I think those two words are so directly correlated. They mean such different things, but like I hope that like if I want to love people, I hope that I can really understand what it means to love them, like what they need to be loved, and how to hold them in their most fragile state. Because in the same way that like I see myself, maybe a bunch of people see me like, oh, like I'm this strong, composed, like thoughtful guy that has it figured out. But, like I am just like a ball of like fragmented failures of just like, but I'm given so many of these chances to try again and again and again, and I hope that I live the rest of my life just like constantly seeing people and loving them in the same way that I have been failed by other people in the past, in the same way that people have saved me in my most like lowest, darkest moments. Um, I think like I don't know how I'm gonna do in the future because like I really love like individually understanding people, but I think recently too like I hope that I can do it like on scale and affect people like in the same way that like I actually feel the happiest honestly when I'm individually understanding people and individually just curious about their lives. But I have this like not bitter feeling, but it's like I know that like oh like I wonder because I exist, people like me also exist in the world too. Because people like me who just crash out every day, who are just so fragile, that aren't being seen, that aren't being cared, that have no friend, that like they feel like the world's against them, that they feel like they're so fragile. Like I know so many of me exist in the world, and I hope that like I can live my rest of my life pursuing the people just like me that feel the same way, that feel misheard, that feel misseen, that feel not loved, that feel abandoned, and I hope that all my work in the future can be done to support them, and that either I create spaces or in some way, I just want people to feel seen and loved. I think like um, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, and right now I'm doing events. Maybe I'll do content in the future. Maybe I'll do like technology in the future too. I don't know, but they're all things I'm touching right now. But um, I think I'm still youngish, but and I know this is an issue that like can never fully be resolved. It's more than just like a single instance. It's a whole like culture movement. But um, yeah, to be seen is to be loved, and I hope I adore that to the fullest. In the same way that like I know there are like so many people that I'm gonna meet in the future, um, and I'm excited to like share my story with them on like who I am and like how I'm shaped, and that even in my own weaknesses, and that I hope that one day I can confidently share my weaknesses on scale that like I can be proud, confident like these weaknesses are why I act the way I do today. These weaknesses are why I live the things that I do, and these weaknesses are things that I can no longer be, I will no longer be ashamed of, and I can confidently share because like oh like maybe these flaws and this fragility that I have is precious, and that not only can I see that, but like I hope like one day I'm proud enough and confident that like people can also see that too. Um, but yeah, I know I rushed a lot of it at the end, but um, that's my life as a whole. And one thing I do want to add too, when I do life stories, like I want to like talk about my life song, and the reason why I have a life song, I just bought a guitar today too, or yesterday, and I can't play it yet, but I'm gonna act like I'm playing, and I hope that next year when I do play, when I am able to play this well, I can play the life song that envisions my life. But in the meantime, I'm gonna sing along my Spotify. This is the song that I think. Oh, I found my Spotify. Found it. Now this is the song I think that like that has always like encapsulated me on like it's always been like my top 10 songs the last 5 years, but it's a sad song, but it's a sad song, but I think every year that I live, I think like I resonate in many ways. So I'm gonna I can't play it, but I'm gonna act like I'm playing and then play on my TV actually. So I'm gonna assist single legs though.
If you were a teacher, I would fail your class, take it over and over till you notice me. If you were a waiting room, I would never see a doctor. I would sit there with my first aid kit and bleed. I wanna be the power ballad that lifts you up and holds you down. I wanna be the broken love song that feeds your misery. And I can't wish all that I want, but it won't bring us together. Plus I know whatever happens to me, I know it's for the better.
Let's get to the ending, but
Maybe you should come over. Wanna make you fall in love as hard as my poor parents' teenage daughter. She'll be the best you've ever had if you let her. I know it's for the better. No, 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 it's for the better.
yeah, I won't play it too long because I don't want to get copyrighted. But Waiting Room has always been a song that has like resonated with me, both in the times that I know it's for the better, and the times that like I know that it will get better one day, or the times I can't imagine it'll get better one day. Know that's for the better, and that like in the times that I feel like I've crashed out to my lows, that like in some way I couldn't have known that like it serves the foundation of like what I value now. I couldn't imagine a world that it's actually important, where my pains are relevant, but I know it's for the better now because in some way it is so important and it serves as a foundation for me to see like why I'm so privileged, I'm so joyful, I'm so lucky that like my pains and my fragility can allow me to see, understand the people in the ways that like I couldn't have imagined a way where if it wasn't for these pains, I just couldn't fathom how I could understand these people. And I think like, no, it's for the better because like I never asked to be shaped. I never asked to have these experiences that like for me like my world would collapse. But I couldn't have imagined for these things. But I know it's for the better because of wow, like I'm so lucky that I am shaped to have a vision and to be able to see and live the way that I do now. And I hope that I continue doing this. And I know it's for the better. That